What's up, everyone? And today I'm bringing a deck profile on my Mutants. Now, Mutants is a very interesting deck profile that actually got a top at a regional recently. Very interestingly enough, I figured I'd do a deck profile on it. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. First, I run 3 Mutant ST46, 3 Mutant MO5, and 3 Mutant Mutant. The MO5 and ST46 both have an effect when they're special summoned. The ST46 allows you to add a mutant spell trap, while the O5 allows you to add a mutant monster. And Mutant Mutant has an effect that if you draw a mutant card, you can spell summon this card from your hand. Now all of them have the effect to tribute themselves and an additional card from your hand, or in case of Mutant Mutant, hand or deck. And for ST46 and MO5, it's from the hand or the field. Then you can special summon one monster from the deck, depending on what you banish. So let's say for Mutant Mutant, you banish from your deck a Mutant Cry. Then you can add yourself, or you can special summon Mutant Arsenal. If it's a Mutant Monster, you can special Mutant Beast. And if it's a Mutant Spell, you can special summon Mutant Mist. Also, so I of course run the one Arsenal, the one Beast, and the one Mist. Now all of them can be special summoned except by the effect of a mutant card. And each of them have a cool different effects. Arsenal cannot be targeted by trap effects, and once per turn when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can banish one card from your hand or field, target one monster on the field, banish it. Mist negates trap effects, or no. When your opponent activates a trap card or effect, you can banish one card from your hand or field, draw 2 cards, and Beast, you can negate the activation of a spell. So you definitely want to have multiple out on the field. Well, not really multiple, but I gotta say at least if you can get one copy of Arsenal, Mist, and Beast to the field, that's definitely really good. But you don't want to have them in your hand because they are definitely going to be very bricky, considering you can essentially get them out with any of the lower level mutants. Also run a D-Shifter. Considering this deck focuses on banishing a card from a hand to special one of the 3 big mutant monsters, the graveyard isn't really important, and considering the Mutant Cry is basically kind of like a Thunder Dragon fusion, so we can fusion using monsters that are banished, so it doesn't really hurt you too much. And to be honest, compared to the last version, which was more of a trap version, this one I'm definitely going to more on the banishing sort of route, considering how effective that is against tier elements. It's basically kind of got the same advantage as Flunders does against the tier element matchup. Moving on to the spells, I run 1 Mutant Evolution Lab. When this card is active, you can special summon one of your level 4 mutant monsters from your hand or deck, or from your hand or that is banished, which is definitely really cool. Now, sometimes it's not going to be the most ideal card to have, but most oftentimes you're going to go for the Mutant Cry or one of the traps over these spells, but this can definitely help with extending. Since we run more of like the macro and the D-Shifter, it definitely makes this card a lot better because those cards will be getting banished. Also run Mutant Fusion. Mutant Fusion is nice. Unfortunately, it only requires materials from the hand and a field, so it doesn't use the grave or banish like Mutant Cry does. Also run 3 Emergency Teleports. The mutants are psychics, oddly enough. I don't know what kind of makes them psychic, but they're psychics. Also run 3 Pot of Prosperity. I'd say a good chunk of the extra deck doesn't really matter too much. You can banish it without too much of a cost, because most oftentimes I may summon 4 or 5 monsters a game from the extra deck, so definitely having that extra search power. Of course, I also run 3 Dimensional Fissure. Like the D-Shifter, can help with basically disrupting grave reliant matchups like tier elements or to some extent sprites. And it's just another, essentially I'm replacing the traps with D-Shifter and D-Fissure. Also run the 1 for 1 because the effect of the Mutant MO5 and ST46 happen when they are special summoned. So 1 for 1 still works with it, although 1 for 1 can be kind of finicky at times, more or less just because we do run a lower monster count, but you can also just use it for the effects of Mutant Mutants as well. Or not Mutant Mutant, any of the mutants to banish it to special the one of the appropriate type. So for the spell, that would be Mutant Mist. So you can just banish it to special Mutant Mist from your deck. I also run the 1 Call by the Grave. Definitely don't want to get hand trapped, so that's definitely pretty good to have. Moving on to traps. I run 3 Mutant Cry. Mutant Cry during the main phase. You can fusion summon a mutant fusion monster from your extra deck by shuffling the fusion materials listed on into your deck from among your cards on the field, grave, or face up banished. So it basically takes the D-Shifter and the Dimensional Fissure and makes them work in this deck thanks to Mutant Cry. Also run 3 Mutant Expansion. Expansion, when it's activated, you can take a level 4 or lower mutant monster from your deck and either add to your hand or special summon it. So it can be good for extending and also to kind of help basically have game on board in the following turn. I run the 1 Mutant Clash. It's kind of like an impermanent way. When this card is activated, you target one effect monster. Foe controls, banish mutant monster from your graveyard, and if you do, negate its effects until the end of this turn. And I also run the 3 Infinite Impermanence. Moving on to the extra deck. I run 3 Mutant Synthesis. Mutant Synthesis is the one you're going to go into most times, and just because it requires 2 mutants with different attributes, and if this card is fusion summoned, you can target one card on the field, destroy it. Additionally, when your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you activate this effect. For the rest of the turn, this face of card is unaffected by the activated effect of an opponent's card with the same type. So let's say you declare a spell. Then you can essentially make your Mutant Synthesis immune to spell cards, or monsters if that's what you want to do. It really depends on what your opponent's doing. Also run 2 Mutant Ultimus. Ultimus is nice, but it's also harder to get out because it requires 3 level 8 or higher mutant monsters. And getting all 3 into the graveyard isn't exactly the easiest thing to do. That's only more for like a later game kind of thing. When a card effect is activated, you banish the mutant card from your graveyard, or hand, or face up field with the same type, negate the activation. And if you do, banish that card. So it's basically kind of like a Omni Negate as long as you have a mutant card that has the same type, or the same type of card as what you're trying to negate. So let's say they activate, Monster Reborn. You can banish the mutant evolution from your hand or field to negate it, more or less. I also run the 1 Link Rebo. Doesn't really come up too much, but does come up sometimes. I also run the 1 Cross Sheep, which is very good in fusion-based decks, which allow you to special summon a level 4, so it can be used to extend. I do run an IP package with the IP Masquerena, Phoenix, and Unicorn. I also run an Access Code and Apollosa. I also run 1 Laralosk Assembled Nightingale, the 1 Downward, and the 1 Zeus. Doesn't come up too much, but if you have 2 mutants on the field, this is also just another option, but most oftentimes you'll probably banish this off of Pod Prosperity. That's it for the deck profiling. What do you think of mutants? Think they're pretty good? Do you think they got potential? Let me know in the comments and I'll see you in the next video I make. Bye.